The Barcelona GP is right around the corner, and it seems like we'll have two very competitive teams who will bring big packages to the Circuit of Catalunya. After the impressive pace in Montreal, Mercedes are now looking more and more confident with their car, as they believe they've opened up a wider operating window, whereas McLaren is the only team to score points on every race this season, with Lando Norris looking to continue this momentum in Barcelona too. But with Red Bull feeling the pressure more, and with Ferrari having to bounce back in Spain, how will these upgrades change the pecking order, and can we see a winner from one of these two teams? Mercedes have been quite positive about their car performance in Canada, and although it's quite an inconvenient circuit due to the bumps and curbs and effectively being a street circuit race, the Silver Arrows have a lot to hope for in the upcoming period. It's been reported that a new upgrade package will arrive for the W15, including the floor of the car, which is the primary section where Mercedes feels they can gain more performance, widen up the operating window even further, and not struggle with the balance of the car as well as the porpoising issues. Even though the qualifying narrative is widely towards Russell's side, with the younger Brit out-qualifying the 7-time world champion 8-1, it doesn't mean that we won't see both Mercedes drivers fighting up at the front. They've taken a massive step in Canada, and they're looking forward to continuing this trend in Barcelona. When talking about this matter, Toto Wolff went on to say, "I think definitely since Imola, we've taken the right steps and put parts on the car that are working, something with which we were struggling in the past couple of years. Now, directionally, we seem to be adding performance every weekend, and we have new stuff coming, including new parts coming to Barcelona that should help us. So I would very much hope that we can continue this positive trajectory." Now, obviously Mercedes is not regressing in performance, which is the primary thing that needs to be said here. The issue is that the rest of the grid, or the teams that are above them, have taken bigger steps ahead. Unlike Aston Martin, the team that was fighting at the top in the first half of 2023 and is now definitely regressing with its upgrades, Mercedes is more confident in what they have to bring to the table in the remainder of the season, hinting at podium and race win fights more frequently. The pressure is definitely on their shoulders because this is the third season of the regulations and they're yet to perform at the highest level possible. For a team that used to dominate the grid in such a way from 2014 to 2020, this has been doomed as unacceptable by the experts and the fans. Regardless, that might be in the past right now as all eyes are set on Barcelona. This is a circuit on which Mercedes scored double podium finishes back in 2023. But then again, it turned out to be horribly wrong for the remainder of the season, meaning if that they are good here, it doesn't automatically imply that they will be good at the rest of the weekend. However, they can learn a lot about the car with the new upgrades, which are primarily rotating around the floor of the car due to the combination of slow, medium and high-speed corners, given the fact that Barcelona served as a testing ground for F1 teams before the season started. When talking about the magnitude of the upgrades, Wolff went on to say, "Sometimes when you bring a highly visible part like a bodywork or front wing, this is pretty much the talk of what has changed the performance. But the truth is, we've brought so many new parts over the last 3 races, visible and invisible for the eye, that have contributed milliseconds to more performance. I think this is where those marginal gains then have that positive effect. That was just a huge effort by the factory, so I think the wheel has started to get some real motion on it." Mercedes has 2 very competitive drivers, which is also a huge plus, even though Hamilton is leaving at the end of the season and is slowly but surely distancing himself from the team, visible through his reaction after the Canadian GP. When Wolff spoke about the car moving in the right direction, and all he received back was deafening silence from the 7-time world champion. Be that as it may, the situation is quite critical because there are a lot of people that need to be satisfied on the board of Mercedes, and if these upgrades don't bring them to the Montreal level of competitiveness, or even better, huge issues are waiting for the Brackley-based squad. On the other hand, you have McLaren, a team that's been steadily following an uprise curve and is now slowly but surely threatening to win more races in 2024, potentially even joining the championship fight. While Verstappen is still the main man to beat, Norris and Piastri have been uncomfortably close to him, and in Montreal, in his first stint on the intermediate tyres, Norris was able to present a very good pace and get past Verstappen and Russell in a clear racing manner. Be that as it may, the team understands that they are now more serious challengers than they could have been in the past, which requires constant upgrades to the car, and Barcelona won't be an exception either. Over the past couple of months, McLaren was forced to give up a bit of the high-speed corner performance to add more towards the slow-speed corners, and it seems like they found the perfect balance between these two parameters. Obviously, they're not showing a lot of their upgrades or speaking about them in public, but statements from Stella are quite encouraging. They're no longer here to be satisfied with podium finishes, they're here to hear the British and Australian anthem more often, and that's all that matters. When talking about Barcelona, Stella went on to say, "For the coming races, we'll have some upgrades, but there won't be a single or kind of a big upgrade like we've seen over the last 12 months. This is more of an individual component where we found a little bit of performance, and rather than waiting to deploy everything together once ready, we take it trackside. So I won't say what, but we'll see some new stuff coming over the next few races." Well, the team has presented itself as the most consistent one because they've been competitive at every circuit we've visited so far, and the fact that the performance of the MCL38 has only increased goes to show that they do mean business. For example, Red Bull's flaws were visible in Monaco, whereas Ferrari's blunders came to light in Montreal. But on both of these weekends, you had Norris finishing second and Piastri quite close to him, P3 in Monaco and P5 in Montreal. Be that as it may, the team needs to work a bit on the strategy as well, because ultimately this is what cost Norris a genuine shot at victory. And when talking about the disappointment that the Brit didn't see the second win of his career in 2024, Stella went on to say, "This sort of little disappointment for a victory that was possible is actually a statement to the fact that the team has come a long way and we're now regular podium contenders, or at times even victory contenders. At the same time, I look at the positives, and there are many. Certainly, the team has been consistent in being competitive despite the variation of track, conditions and so on, which is something that you can never take for granted. However, it's worth mentioning that Red Bull and Ferrari won't sit with their hands crossed. After all, they're still the top two teams that need to be beaten, and while Perez's performance goes to show what type of car the RB20 really is and how important it is to have Verstappen in it, it's still a challenge that the rest of the grid find it hard to overcome. Ferrari themselves will be accelerating part of the upgrades that were scheduled for Silverstone here in Barcelona, and if everything goes smoothly, then we might be looking at a proper three-team battle for the race win, one that will likely see Perez be out of it due to the three-place grid penalty he has in Barcelona, combined with his poor qualifying form. All of this points towards the fact that the 2024 season is far from over, and the Barcelona upgrades will certainly serve as a testament as to whether or not we'll have a competitive championship ahead of us. This is the race that the teams will use in their own favour in order to judge in what position their car currently is and whether or not more performance can be found out of it. With all this in mind, do you think that McLaren and Mercedes will be fighting for the race win in Barcelona? Well, let us know in the comments down below.